Did you feel pressured into making a big New Year's resolution this year? And have your previous attempts to make changes at the beginning of January kind of fallen by the wayside just a few weeks into the new year? But do you still want to make some positive and valued changes in your life this year? I'm Dr. Richard MacKinnon. I'm a workplace psychologist and coach, and on this channel I share insights from the science of psychology to help you be your best self. In this video, I'm going to explore why New Year's resolutions aren't that helpful and give you an alternative approach to making those changes that you really want to achieve this year. Firstly, we can find ourselves committing to changes that really aren't authentic. They're not us. They're not who we want to be. Maybe we've bought into them because of societal pressure. Maybe it's closer to home. Someone in our immediate circle is suggesting we make the changes or is doing it themselves and we're going along for the ride. But if it's not authentic, if it's not something that we genuinely want to do, it's highly unlikely that we're going to stick to that resolution, even over the short term. Now, sometimes we can make a New Year's resolution that's simply too vague to be actionable. Are you the kind of person, I know I am, that in previous years has said, this is the year I'm going to be healthy? Well, what does that mean? Or this is the year I'm going to be fit? Again, I have no idea what that means in practice. And some of the confusion, some of the ambiguity can spill over into frustration, and before we know it, we've let that resolution fall by the wayside. Some resolutions can be just too big and demanding. They can be too disruptive for the lives that we actually live, and we forget about the practicalities of life at the very beginning of the calendar year. The classic example is joining a gym, and after the initial excitement of going to those early morning spin classes has worn off, we find ourselves facing barrier and difficulty and annoyance, and it's really hard to sustain that change because it was simply too disruptive for us in the short term. A really big problem with these typical New Year's resolutions is that they can take some time to pay off. If you're trying to achieve something significant, it's going to be weeks, but more probably months before you see any kind of a result. And then we find ourselves in this situation where we're expending effort and we're experiencing discomfort, and well, all the negatives are stacking up, but there's nothing on the positive side yet because we're looking for results. And so we feel like we're making very little progress, when in fact we are, but we're at the early stage of that change where the progress isn't as obvious as it's going to be later on. Don't feel bad though. It's natural to take advantage of the spilling over into a new year as an opportunity for a fresh start. We love a fresh start. What we're doing though is not giving ourselves a maximum chance of success because we're being vague, we're being too demanding, and we're not being realistic. So rather than big bang change, what I advise to my clients is to seek out and cultivate helpful habits that are set in the direction of where you want to get to. Helpful, healthy habits can be tiny in scale, but can get big results over time. The cultivation of new habits can start immediately. It needn't cost you a penny, a cent, and it doesn't need to disrupt your life. In fact, ideally, they should be so small that they don't. What we're looking for here is consistency over time and a kind of a snowballing effect rather than anything instant. So our focus should then be on consistency of the habit rather than the results. And if we focus on that, we're not going to be disappointed because we've got one job: do the habit daily. Unlike those big, vague, I'm going to be fit, I'm going to be healthy, I'm going to change my career. Well, we know when we're doing a habit or not. We've done it or we've not done it. It's very clear. Whether it's drinking a glass of water with each meal, deciding that you're going to take the stairs rather than the escalator, or blocking out time to conduct a weekly review, you will know, have I done this? Have I not done this? And when you've done it, you've got that sense of accomplishment because you're maintaining that habit. Well, if we've met before, or if you've seen anything I've shared online, you know where I'm going to start. values. These are those personal qualities, those attributes, those aspects of life that we want more of. They give us a sense of direction, and when we put values into action, it is fundamentally good for us. And so if we're able to put those into action in the form of habits, then it's win-win. Now, if the whole concept of values is new to you, I've got a link down below to a recording of a webinar I did in 2020 all about the value of getting clear on your values. When we're clear on our values, they help us answer the question, why? Why am I doing this? Why am I depriving myself? Why am I taking on this extra work? Why am I wading through this discomfort? Without that sense of why, we just focus on what we're missing out on. And again, we'll be really tempted to give up. When we put these habits in place, and these habits are aligned with our values, what we're simply doing is being the kind of person that we ideally want to be. We're doing it in a small way, but we're doing it consistently, and that feels good. So if, for example, it's about being clearer on your boundaries and managing those boundaries, the habit could be about turning off your mobile phone when you're having a meal with your family. If it's about career focus, we could translate that into the habit of daily practice of a career relevant skill. So we're moving from the big overarching change to small daily steps that head in the direction of that big change, that goal we want to achieve, but also informed by what's really important to us. And that helps us answer the question, why am I doing it in the first place? Keep it simple, keep it small. In fact, generally when I work with my clients, when they come up with the idea of a new habit, I ask them to scale it back just a little bit, because ideally we don't want anything to get in the way. We want to remove all possible friction from a behavioral point of view. So identify it, strip it back, keep it small, keep it something that you are confident you're going to be able to do on a daily basis. Of course, once you've established this habit, you can be free to add more habits to your repertoire, or you can increase the scale of that habit and make the change a bit more demanding. But the point is, you're starting at a level that you can achieve. You're setting yourself up for success. Now, it's also a really good idea to track this. What this means is you're using a notebook, a calendar, and crossing out the days, or you're using one of the plethora of apps that are out now that support habit tracking. You're creating a visual representation of your behavior, and that can be motivating, but it's also giving us a realistic picture of what we have done, and that's far superior to the accuracy of our memory. If you've ever wondered, did I take my vitamins this morning, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. Sometimes it can be hard to remember if we've done or not done something, especially if we're looking over a period of time. So tracking it, ticking that box each time that you do it, that itself can get motivational, because when you've done 30 days out of the month and there's 31, I don't want to miss that last day because it's going to be a complete month. And of course, while we're waiting for the benefits of this new habit to materialize in whatever form that is, we're focusing on consistency. And of course, tracking the habit gives us that visual summary of our consistency. Habits can be formed on any day in the year. There's nothing magical about January the 1st. Many of us in the world view that as the start of a new year. And yes, it's a great opportunity for a fresh start. But maybe you're watching this on another date, on another month, even another year. There's nothing to stop you forming a habit today. There's no rule that says this has to be done in the first week of January. In fact, I would argue that it's much easier once we're over all of that beginning of the new year excitement and disruption, that actually maybe February is a better time in the year to make some of these changes. So we're trying to move away from new year, new me, and all of that unsustainable change. Maybe, let's think of this as more of a journey. I use that analogy a lot in coaching. And so if our values are a compass that give us a sense of direction, and we want to follow that sense of direction, well, our new habits at the start of a new period, a year, a season, a week, they represent a kind of a course correction, a subtle nudge to where we're going, rather than a complete reinvention. I'd love to get your questions too, so drop them in the comments. Like this if you found it useful, share it with someone in your personal or professional life if you think they'd like it too. Please consider subscribing to the channel if you want to see more stuff like this, and thank you for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one.